accessible to you in our Handshake resource library early next week. Today's session is going to be co-directed and led by Craig Berger, who is Assistant Director in our Community Engaged Learning Office, and we are really glad to be partnering with Craig as he will lead us through a panel. After our panel session, we will then move into some breakout rooms where there'll be an opportunity for you all to work on, together to work on some worksheets, and we'll get those dropped into the chat too. We'll send those files out here very shortly. But without further ado, I guess for housekeeping, please use your raise hand feature and feel free to unmute once we've called on you to ask those questions. Otherwise, use the chat for questions. I'll turn it over to Craig, and he's going to give a high-level overview of the session and introduce our two panelists today. So I'll stop sharing my screen so that way you can see us. Craig, let me turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Kristen. I actually just dropped the tool that we will be using in the chat, so everyone will be able to access that now. If that's an issue, just let me know. But first, just some context about this session and what we're planning to do today. The first thing, I guess, where I'll start is that I think one of the most relevant things in talking with students that I've heard is that they not only obviously want to find a job after college, and they want to start that process of finding a career and being successful, whatever that means to them. But there's also this concern about making sure that they're making a difference, that there is something about the role that aligns with what they're looking for and who they are as a person, and what they value, and all of those things. And sometimes that job actually just works out, and developing that career just happens to work out, but a lot of times it doesn't. And so one of the things, though, that we realize is that sometimes there doesn't seem to be a way that we actually are able to know how to make whatever career or whatever job we have our own. And so one of the things we're going to be doing today is hearing from two people, one being a recent alum of Kent State, and hearing about her experience and actually having that experience of working in a role and starting a career that is matching who she is. And then we're also going to hear from a current Kent State student who is also thinking about how he can make a difference in the world, what his experience has been like at Kent State so far, and also making sure that he is doing things on campus that allow him to develop the skills that he needs to be successful in finding a meaningful career. After we hear from them, we are going to get into breakout rooms and actually work with a worksheet called the Meaningful Careers Worksheet. And it's very simple. It asks 3 questions, gives some examples of what a response might look like, and then allows you to complete your answers to those questions based on your own experience and what your thoughts are. And so that is on the screen right there for you to see. We're going to do that in small groups so that we can share our answers with each other, and then also get a sense of what some of those patterns are, really reflect on what your experience is, and then hear from your peers how they're also experiencing this search for meaningful careers and what their answers looked like for themselves. And then we are planning to end the session by coming back together in a larger group and actually hearing from everyone, just to get a sense of what the experience was like. So first I'm going to start out by just briefly introducing and actually letting them do their full introduction, introducing our 2 panelists today. First we have Amelia Shirin, who I said was a recent ASU alum, and I believe graduated, was it 2020? Okay. And then we also have Eric Gomez, who is a current student at Kent State, works in our office actually as a community partner advocate, and also as a USG senator. And I'll let him introduce himself as well. But let's start with Amelia, and the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Amelia Sharon. I'm actually a Warren, Ohio native that is over near the Youngstown area. And I graduated from Kent State in 2020, so I am a Corona graduate. It was very interesting, but to say the least, we all have to try to learn how to adapt in this day and age, which is why I'm glad to be here and I'm excited to get to know all of your career paths, and I'm glad to share mine. Something that I want to press on is my major was public relations, and then I did have a minor in theater management. I 100% was able to use everything that I have learned in my 4 years at Kent State University and more. Right out of Kent State University, I had a job that I thought was my dream job, but the more I worked on it, the more I was in that environment, I learned that my heart belongs somewhere else. And I am excited to talk to you guys about how normal that is. So even though there are times where you feel like you're a failure, you feel like you have no clue where you're going, everyone feels that way. I felt that way. And sometimes I still feel that way, you know? But everything in life is trial and error. And now I'm very lucky to have a job that I love with all my heart and that I'm very passionate about and that I'm able to build off the ground from. So I can't wait to share more with you.
All right. And Eric, if you wouldn't mind a quick introduction of yourself and who you are, what you do at Kent State, and then I do have some introductory questions for each of you after that.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Eric Gomez. My major is political science, and I am the senator for the residence halls for undergraduate student government. So I'm pretty involved on campus. I also would say that I would agree with Amelia. I didn't have the easiest time picking my major. So I just wanted to let everyone know that it's super normal and super okay if you change your major a couple of times, because we're still trying to figure out like what we want to do with our lives. So.
Great. And so I'm going to turn back to Amelia. Can you just talk about how you got to Kent State and what experiences you had in your academic programs, involvements that maybe stood or stand out to you, that and maybe some that actually got you thinking more about how you could apply what your interests are in your career or find a career that matched that, and also just connection to the community.
Yeah, so growing up in Warren, there is actually a Kent State University Trumbull satellite branch. I grew up performing in the summer stock theater every summer at Kent State Trumbull. And the more I got familiar with working at that facility, doing shows, I met the theater department director, Dr. Daniel Naden, who later on became one of my professors at Kent State, Maine when I decided to go to Kent. So growing up at that satellite branch that offered so much to youth was a huge influence of where I wanted to go. Also, it was the perfect amount away from home, and I love the town as well as my program. So for the longest time, before I did go to college, I thought I was going to go for speech pathology, which they have an amazing program for there. However, probably about 2 weeks before I was supposed to start my freshman year in fall of 2015, I got a call from Disney Cruise Lines and was offered a job. So I did not go for 2015-2016 year. But then when I came back from working on a ship, after I did my first contract, Kent State University saved my scholarships for me. So when I was back on land, they said, do you want to come back to school? And I was like, you know what, yeah. So when I did go back to school, I didn't know what I wanted to go for, so I was an exploratory major for a little bit. And finally, it was like a light bulb that just went off in my head when I learned about public relations, because it's all about networking, talking to people, being creative, and being strategic. And the more I thought about it, I do hone all of those things, and I wanted to excel and I wanted to strengthen those skills. So I went in with PR, and I didn't pick up my theater management minor until probably my junior year. So I was a little late to the game on that one, but I was so excited to go to Kent State because throughout my career in public relations, I was given so many opportunities of working in extracurriculars like Black Squirrel Radio, Golden Reflections Dance Team, Sigma Delta Tau, Delta Chi Sweetheart. I was able to experience a lot and help out a lot of different organizations. What really stood out were special seminar programs. So I strongly recommend always following the roadmap for your major, but you should be able to take advantage of any other opportunity there. So for example, we did not have nonprofit grant writing on my roadmap for public relations, which it should be. But I decided to take that responsibility upon myself and teach myself that. So I took grant writing online and I loved it, and I was able to use it in the future. So if there's something that you're interested in, it's okay to take a class on it, because I took Acting 101 or Art of Theater, and next thing you know, I ended up with that theater management minor. Another thing is that the more I learned what I could do with a theater management minor and with a PR major, it really strengthened me not as a student or a worker, but as an overall person. So I grew up in theater. I love theater. But here I am, a public relations major. Like, why? You know? And so I was able to combine all of my passions of public relations, meaning bring awareness to things that you're passionate about, and the art of theater, which you can use as a form of education. So that's the first question for me.
Let me first note that that's actually a great point, because it's one of the things that we're hoping this session does for those of you out there who are joining and are really just wondering, how do I make sure that a career that I have is meaningful? And I think one of the things is just being aware of what your interests are and actually asking yourself, does that match with what my current plans are? If so, great. How can I deepen that connection? If not, thinking more about it and actually just overall getting all of that down on paper, which this tool that we're going to use here in a few minutes really helps us with. And then as far as Eric, how would you say you got to Kent State? What was your experience like? And what experiences are you having currently that are standing out to you and that are encouraging you to think about how you can apply your education in your community, that you can make a difference, you can find meaning in a career that you find yourself in down the line, that you build for yourself?
All right. So I think something that heavily influences why I want to do political science is my involvement with community engaged learning. When I volunteered at Campus Kitchen and I delivered the food to church, it was something that felt like a privilege to do. It didn't feel like a task or like something I needed to do for credit. It just felt like very humbling and something that I wanted to incorporate into my career. And I feel like I have a similar story to Amelia. I started out in high school really enjoying art. I went to art school in downtown Miami, and I was surrounded by a bunch of creative people, really loved art, and I started experimenting with art, and I found a love for making 3D art out of found objects, and I touched on a lot of social concepts, kind of like gender, consumerism, culture, just an array of social issues. And even in architecture, which is something I did in high school, even with architecture, I kind of infused politics within it. I remember this one assignment where we had to create a building, and we decided what the purpose of the building was. The only limit is that the building can only be 500 feet tall. And I convinced my professor, okay, I'm going to make the building a little bit taller. And some people were confused why I did that. But the reason is because everybody else was creating like companies and banks and like luxury housing, and I created low income housing. And I made the building taller, like a political statement, like the people are above the corporations and banks. So I always infused politics into everything I did, and that's one of the reasons why I found out I really like politics. So just because you're interested in one thing doesn't mean you have to do that. Like, your interest can help you lead you to what you want to do.
Thanks for sharing, Eric. We're going to go back to Amelia. I know that one of the experiences that you had was writing plays, if I'm correct.
Oh, yes, sir.
And I believe, based on the research that I did, that you not only wrote a play on mental health, but you also were part of writing a play on the opioid epidemic. And those subjects, which are very public subjects, those are very public issues that have been prevalent, not only on campus, but really in the community, especially when we're talking about the opioid epidemic. Can you just talk about what led you to that idea to write those plays, how that all came about, and how you think that might have impacted where you are now and where you're going?
Oh, yeah. So writing the play is called Independent, and it is based off of the opioid epidemic. It is a story that brings awareness and education to the addiction community. And it's actually based off of 50 different interviews that I held with people who are recovering addicts, currently trying to recover, or still struggling, as well as policemen, nurses, teachers, families who have lost people to addiction, unfortunately, and so much more. I took all of those 50 interviews and I put them into different characters, and I took all of their stories and I made them into scenes. And so it wasn't just me who wrote it, but it was also these 50 other people who were brave enough to share their stories, who were comfortable enough to be open about their life and want to feel understood. One of my biggest things I like to say is that I want people to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I want them to understand the misunderstood, because I was that way for a very long time. The reason that made me want to write Independent was because I was misdiagnosed with a mental illness for over 10 years. And because I had a misdiagnosis, I found how to handle my pain in a very negative way. And so I handled my pain in a very unhealthy way through that abuse, through that addiction. And when I was able to actually want to get help for myself and come to see the light, and I'm still helping myself to this day, I always will for the rest of my life, I decided that it was time to be open and honest about it. And not just with myself, but also with my family and with people I know and with people who are complete strangers, because everyone has skeletons in the closet. You know, everyone has sticky fingers. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone has their poison. But the number one kicker to writing the play was back in September 2017. There was that photo that went viral about a young boy being in a car, in his car seat, with both his grandma and her boyfriend, who were unfortunately overdosing in the front seat. And 2017 was one of the highest rates for overdoses in the United States, especially within the state of Ohio alone. So with that being the issue, I was like, here I am trying to recover and fight this. Here's other people dying in the streets. Here's people just talking so poorly and stereotyping addicts and the addiction community, and don't understand the science behind addiction as well as the philosophy. So I took that show, and it gives you a sense of what a Narcotics Anonymous meeting feels like. It takes you through the science of how addiction works. It takes you through the mentality and the psychology of how addiction works as well. So I decided to personify the drug heroin, and you see how she interacts with people who happen to be addicted to her. And I made it a temptress because that's how it feels at times. However, not only is it a temptress, but it can also feel like a mom and like a warm hug. It could feel like your best friend. It could feel like a crazy ex-partner that you just need to cut out of your life because of toxicity. So it really showed a wide range, but it also showed people with different backgrounds. Addiction is something that has no flavor or like no acquired taste. It happens to everyone. I mean, the richest of the rich, the poorest of the poor, anyone, period. And so I was able to use both my theater background as well as my public relations major and everything I learned in there in 2 years. 2 years. I wrote that show my sophomore year. Everything that I wanted to just throw up, you know? And so I was able to merge those passions, and writing that show really changed my life. It helps me mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. I was on the front page of the New York Times in the art section it was the top running article for 2 weeks back then. I also had a partnership with Marvel Comics. They created a short comic strip about Independent. It was written by Marcus McLaurin, who was actually one of the illustrators for Daredevil. I found my mentor, Chris Columbus, who is also from Warren, Ohio, and he's also the writer of The Goonies, Gremlins. He directed the first 2 Harry Potter films. He's a great guy. I talk to him bi-monthly, and I still send him all the stuff that I write, and he tells me whether it's good or bad, what I gotta change. So I like him because he's brutally honest. And it's really changed my life because it's shaped my career of what I want it to be. And I saw earlier someone mentioned like equilibrium between pay and enjoyment. Well, when you love something so much, the pay doesn't matter. However, with this position and where I'm at, I'm taking care of myself. I am in an average pay range. You can find anything that you can sustain yourself with. But the most important thing is that you need to be given what you deserve. Know your worth. I know my worth, and you deserve to know your worth. In any career, especially in theater, and with this opportunity I was given, I took it and I ran, and I'm still writing today. I write speeches for speech and debate. I write speeches for crisis management for local theaters. I even created another nonprofit organization called Lights On, which is a sexual violence misconduct prevention program. But what's so great about Independent is that that's where it all rooted. And even the show itself is also a form of nonprofit work, because wherever the show is performed, all proceeds are donated to a local help network or a rehab in that area. And to this day, it's been performed in seven different states. I think the farthest one away from here, I think it was Missouri, Mississippi, started with an M. But it's really cool because it's not just in Ohio, it's everywhere. And it really opens your mind to that. And so within the past 3 years of it being alive, since 2017, 2017, I've been able to raise over $10,000 for rehabs and local help networks, like monetary donations and material donations. So donating the basic necessities of like sheets, blankets, socks, shoes, shampoo, conditioner, coffee. That's the number one for any rehab. But it's been an eye-opening experience because I learned a lot about myself as a student and a worker and as a human being. And it's something that I strongly recommend to throw yourself into, like get comfortable with the uncomfortable, try something new. And it's okay if you fail. Like I failed multiple times before I ended up in the New York Times. I failed multiple times before I got an email from Marvel Comics. I failed multiple times before a famous movie director who directed Mrs. Doubtfire reached out to me. Like, you have to hit rock bottom to go back up. And it's okay, because life is meant to be a roller coaster. So.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn to you here in a minute, just to get a sense of how your experience is connected with your current role and what you do specifically, like right now in the role that you're in. Eric, I just want to turn to you and ask you, like, where are you now in your career path, and what do you see looking forward? Just based on what you're experiencing now, where do you see things going? And if you don't have a clear picture, I think it helps for people to hear that too. If you do have a clear picture, I think people would enjoy hearing that.
Yeah, because of my life experiences, all I know is that I really care about helping people, and I want to work in the public sector because I believe government is a place where people come together and no one's left behind, and I stand by that. I also agree with Amelia, you have to fail before you succeed. I'm currently the senator, like, for residence halls and undergraduate student government, and I failed 5 times before I got a position on student government. So I just want people to know, like, if you want something, you have to work hard for it, and you might fail a lot, but that just means you're getting like one step closer to what you want to do. And again, I don't know the answer of like what I want to do. All I know is like that I want to help people. And it's okay not to know like your freshman year, your sophomore year, like you'll eventually figure it out.
And you are a sophomore, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So definitely good points there. Going back to Amelia, just really quickly, I'm interested in hearing how all that you shared before, I guess, fits or is called upon by you in your current role. How do all of those experiences help you in your day-to-day role? And actually, I'm not sure if you've shared, but if you haven't, what is that role, and where are you currently working?
So, where am I? Give me one moment. Hello. So, right after I graduated college, I went straight into working for the company that I had been interning for, which was Cleveland Ballet. I was their PR marketing manager because I had been with them for a very long time. And I woke up one day and just kind of looked back on all the work that I'd done. And I realized that I didn't want to do it anymore. And that's okay. Because sometimes you wake up and you feel like a different person, because we are different people every day. We learn something new every day. We go to sleep, we let it process, we wake up, and eureka, maybe we want to go and be an astronaut. Not sure how you're going to do it, but you can do it. Me, I'm afraid of space, so I won't do that. But I am currently the Arts and Culture Program Coordinator at the Jewish Community Center of Youngstown. And that's where I currently am. This is my office. Voila. I found myself in this position because I created a nonprofit called Lights On that I mentioned earlier, and one of my board members said, "Oh, we're hiring for this position and you'd be perfect for it." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is it?" And he presented it to me, saying that I would be running the School of Dance, School of Music, book clubs, film festivals, volunteer efforts, and my mouth was watering, and I was like, yeah, I'll do anything. And so there I was able to take the position and run with it. I have phenomenal coworkers. This is a phenomenal organization, so I'm so grateful to be in a very healthy work environment. And I also want to point out to everyone, if at any point you were in a job, you feel uncomfortable, like you're being abused mentally, emotionally, or you just don't like it, it's okay to leave. It's okay to find somewhere that treats you so much better and in an environment where you feel safe mentally, physically, and emotionally. It's okay. Know your worth financially and even safety wise, okay? But what I currently do is I'm able to use that theater management minor, and not only in my position do I run the School of Music and School of Dance, but I'm currently able to implement and develop this School of Theater. So with that, I decided to rebrand those 3 schools and put them under the umbrella of performing arts. So here I am able to still do all of the things I love, combine my passions, and still make a good salary that supports me and my needs, and just feel comfortable. I went from living on a ship for a year and a half, traveling the world, to living in Kent, Ohio for 4 years, to living back here in Youngstown where I grew up. And I want everyone to know that whether after you graduate, if you want to go to Cleveland or New York or across the world, or even go back home, no matter what it is, it's what you want, it's what you feel comfortable with, and that's okay. It doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter where other people are going. Think of what you need financially, mentally, emotionally, for a job, like personally. And it's about you. This is a time to be selfish, and it's okay to be selfish. But because of me being selfish, I have ended up in this wonderful position that I'm very grateful for, and I hope to be a part of for many years to come.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that last point is a great one, that ultimately it's you that is living with your decisions. And so other people may have strong opinions about what you should do, but they're not going to be the ones that are living day to day with the decisions that you make. So I think that's a great message to share. We are going to move forward now after hearing from our 2 panelists. I do want to make sure that everyone can see there should be in the file section a PDF called Meaningful Careers Tool -KSU. And if you open that, and thanks Kristen for providing the link in the chat, that is what we're going to spend time completing. And you can either you could probably just jot notes down on a piece of paper if you're not able to actually use the PDF. But it's basically 3 different questions that you're answering. And I think what's helpful about the PDF is the examples. I think these big questions in the prompt column on the left side, they are big questions. And so sometimes it helps to have some example answers and what those might look like in order to spur or provoke your thinking. And so there is that space on the right side, or just jotting notes down in front of you, if that's the way you want to do it, to respond to those questions. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break you out into breakout groups. The 2 facilitators that you heard, or the 2 guests that you heard from, the 2 panelists, they will each take on a breakout group. And then Kristen and I will each also take out a breakout group as well. And
that's going to happen. I'm going to push a button here and you're going to move. So Greg, I'll wait for you ready, but it'll happen automatically. Are we ready?
Just one more thing, which is that you will have 15 minutes to do this. And so really, I think probably the best way to do it is to take the first 7 or 8 minutes to make sure that everyone has those answers down, and then the remaining part of the session, the facilitator will ask people to share with each other, and then we'll come back into the larger group and talk about what now.
Okay, I'll hit that button and you'll all break out into breakout room. This part will not be recorded, but we'll pick up recording when we're back in the large session.
Hello, are you just joining us today? Hi, Joy, are you just joining us? Do you need help moving into a breakout room?
Yeah, I had to reload it because it wouldn't let me go back to the regular breakout room.
Sure, what breakout room were you in?
I don't remember the number.
Not a problem. I will put you into a breakout room then.
Okay, thank you.
Julie, are you?
Sorry, what was that?
I said, are you here? I'm having such internet connection issues.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm here, but I have a 2 o'clock, so I'm going to have to head out in a few minutes.
I was going to say, I know you're leaving. Remind me. I don't know if it's possible the way that I did it. I did custom groups. How do I bring them back?
Well, do you want the information to stay in the groups, or do you want to just end the groups?
I just want to end the groups.
So if you go to where you go to share content, yeah, there's a circle with a box around it and the breakout group next to where it says breakout groups. And that'll just end the groups and bring everybody back completely and immediately. So you might want to put something in the chat that says, we're bringing you back to the main room now. Give a little bit of a heads up.
Thank you. That's all I needed. I knew it. I just couldn't remember it right at that moment. Thank you, Julie.
No problem.
Have a good rest of your afternoon and a nice weekend.
You too.
Okay.
Sorry, we got cut off.
Back. All right, Craig, it looks like everyone is back into the main room now. So thank you all so much for sharing. I was able to pop into most of the breakout rooms and even had some chances to share myself. So really, really great. Craig is going to lead us through the large group processing for about the next half hour. So I'll let you take it away, Craig.
Great, thank you. And I think where I want to start is just thanking everyone for participating and actually filling out the worksheet and actually truly answering the 3 questions, because sometimes I think questions can be scary, and just actually being here and going through this process deserves some thanks. So thank you for being here. The first question I'm going to start with, and I'm interested in hearing about, is what was the experience like for you in completing the worksheet? Just the meta process of actually coming up with the answers. What were some observations, or what were some feelings you had as you were going through that? And can we do a raise of hands?
Yeah, if we use a raise hand feature, we can call on folks and you can unmute to share.
Anyone want to share what the experience was like? And Lauren.
So you want us to share like what the break room was like?
Just the experience actually of just completing the worksheet. Like, what were some things you were thinking as you were coming up with the answers or thinking about the questions?
Okay, so when thinking about the questions, they made me think back to why I started like dreaming of what I am getting to do right now, and it just brought me back to my original inspirations.
Great, thank you. And Abigail.
So I definitely agree with Lauren on like thinking back to why I decided to choose a major, but it kind of makes me even like go back to high school when I had like 100 different majors in mind. Like originally I wanted to be a medical major or whatever, and like it makes me think back to really why I decided to narrow it down to what I did. And I also enjoyed the fact that you said don't make your answer perfect, because I'm a perfectionist and I tend to just like want to make every answer perfect, but I kind of just filled out the question based off of like the top of my head, like what I thought of right away. I didn't really, it wasn't like a narrowed down answer that it had to be correct, so that was helpful.
That's great, and that's the way to do it. And I think, you know, some of these answers could change tomorrow for some people. So thank you. And Katie, looks like you're next.
Yeah, for me, it's really easy to just go through classes and be like, yeah, I'm gonna get my bachelor's degree and then get a job, but like forget what that purpose is behind it. Which I think a lot of people fall into, just kind of going through the motions of life, which is my biggest fear. So this really reminded me kind of that fear and like the motivation to stay away from it and keep working toward what I want.
Great, thanks for sharing. And it looks like Mia has her hand raised. Your hand raised.
Yeah, I think that some of the questions were a bit difficult because I've never really been asked questions like that, how I want to make a difference in my career. So it was definitely challenging, but I think it's something that all of us need to think about. So yeah.
And what year are you, Mia?
I'm a freshman, so it's kind of difficult to think about that so early on too.
Definitely understandable. Thanks for sharing. The next question that I was thinking also was just getting a sense for that sharing out part. I know our group got cut off a little bit, but for those who were able to share and then hear your peers share, were there patterns that you noticed or observed in your group that kind of went across all the contributions, or were there things in common that each of you had in how you answered the questions? Anything that stuck out? And Mia and Lauren then. So Mia first and then Lauren. Or is it just Lauren? Lauren, were both of your hands raised?
I have my hand raised.
Yeah.
A pattern that I saw in the break room was the passion, I would say. Like everyone is in a major that spoke, at least. Everyone who's in the major had a strong passion for what they were interested in. So that was a good thing, a pattern that I saw.
Great, thanks. What about some other groups? Were there any commonalities, or was there anything that you thought was an interesting thing that was shared across all of the answers? Were there differences that you noticed? Kristen.
I'm going to start, and then I'm going to rely on the group that I was in when I popped in, because I want to paraphrase it correctly, but I think there was almost a hesitancy, a fear of talking about fears or concerns in the group. That was something that I noticed. It was harder. So that passion that Lauren was describing in the group that they were in, I think shone through as well, but that caution around fear, I noticed. So if anyone in that group wants to add to that, I'm happy to pause and mute.
Does anyone want to share more of what Kristen was talking about? Yeah, I definitely think that sharing fears is, I think, a totally different thing than talking about what you're passionate about and sharing that with others. So I can see where that would happen. Do we have anyone in that group that wants to remark on that further? So let me then turn to another question, which is, did this worksheet, and I would really appreciate any honesty that you could share and being vulnerable with the group, but did this worksheet actually have you think that maybe you're not going down the career path that you want? Did it lead you to question your career path or what you're looking to do? And I'm seeing Chris raising their hand.
I've been having some doubts about my major for a while now, but I think that this worksheet kind of made me think about it a little bit more and what I really want to get out of it and eventually get out of life. So I'm glad that it made me think like that.
Thanks for sharing. I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you mind sharing what you came in thinking, or maybe just worried about with what major you're currently in? And
Yeah, sure. I'm an architecture major currently, and for a while I've been thinking that I wanted to go into some kind of like creative writing oriented course, maybe like English or theater or something like that. But because of the virus, I didn't really have a chance to like actually see what my major is like because I didn't test directly into the program and I didn't get the chance to like do studio classes and stuff. So I mean, once I get the chance to actually see what it's like, that's when I think I'll make the final decision as to whether or not I want to do this as a career.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think that you being open to that and recognizing that tension is a really good thing, and I think will help you in the long run. And that's really what all of this is about. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And it looks like Susanna's hand is up next.
Okay. Actually, my answer is the way I feel presently. I don't know, maybe because the program is remotely. A kind of lagging behind. Number one, I didn't register on time. Then this particular course that has to do with this event/career. I'm finding it difficult. I'm just trying to balance up with it. So I don't know the reason why it is like that. Maybe because it is remotely, like I said, as the way to improve myself is maybe meeting, maybe coming to attending events and then searching for more information. Because I just find it, as in the way I found it is that I'm not assimilating quickly. I don't know, maybe it's because of age or maybe because it's remotely. I never had people to discuss with so that I can, they can boost my morale and help me to improve better.
Got it. Thank you for sharing. If we were to flip that question to whether or not it actually made you more confident in your career, was anyone in that situation? Did it help you tie your planned career in your mind with what you're passionate about and help you realize that this is right now the right career for you? Did that happen for anyone?
I will be glad if it can happen that way. I will. Because it has really been challenging, as in period to me, that how can I fulfill my career? Fine, because this is what I have dreamt of so many years ago. Actually, I don't know, maybe because of the country where I find myself, because I'm a Nigerian, and I'm even in Nigeria presently. So most graduates in Nigeria they are jobless. Someone goes for another career, ended up doing something else just to be able to meet. So now finding myself in this field, I've been doing a course in US. I'm like, am I in the right place? Because of the fear of the unknown. That's just
Absolutely. I think in my group, I think there were a couple people who it sounded like they actually felt maybe more comfortable, or it just the questions provoked maybe an awareness that they were on the right path for them at the time. Does anyone want to share? Maybe felt that? I also don't want to put people on the spot, but Lauren, your hand's raised.
Yeah, when answering the questions, I felt like I'm in the right place and I am getting closer and closer to doing what I'm doing. And I feel like I am in a spot where I am where I want to be and I'm heading to somewhere where I want to be.
Thanks for sharing that. Do we have, I guess, let me rephrase. What challenges are you anticipating facing in pursuing that career? What are some things that you're looking down the road, however far you can see down the road, that major that's in front of you, that career objective in that first question, what are some of those challenges or questions or fears, or just feelings of not being sure? What's there for you? And let's go ahead and hear from Katie first.
Yeah, so I'm an English major with the goal of being a writer in some capacity. So I'm anticipating a lot of rejection before any success, which is always really scary. But just knowing that eventually I'll get there if I just keep trying, like, keeps me going.
Yes, rejection is very scary, and that's probably something that is in common with many different people here, and I know other students and even faculty and staff. I mean, faculty, they're writing articles and they're getting rejected all the time when they try to publish something. It's a concern that is shared quite broadly. Chris, your hand is up.
I think that the main challenge I can see for now, at least, is just deciding what I want to do with my life and getting everything in order before I try and set some kind of goal for myself or encounter other challenges that come with a career. Because since I don't really know what I want to do yet, it's still kind of like up in the air as to what challenges I'm going to face.
Yeah.
So I think once I have that lined out, I'll feel a lot better about how hard or how easy a career is going to be.
That makes sense. And did I see that your hand was up, Lauren, before?
Yeah, I think just thinking ahead to the physics classes that I'm going to have to take in order to get my degree, I think it kind of scares me because in high school I only took one physics class, and for my major in architecture I'm going to have to be taking 4 levels of physics, and I think that scares me, but at the same time I tell myself that I'll just work really hard in those classes at the time, and then once they're over, I'll feel so much relieved. And another thing that kind of scares me about my future career is like internships and just trying to meet already successful architects in order to get up there on the scale. It kind of scares me, but at the same time, you just have to be yourself and everything will fall into place.
Yeah, I think those are great points, and I think I think those concerns make a lot of sense. Tristan, your hand's raised.
Yeah, so I felt the exact same as what Lauren just said. That I'm worried about the programs I'm going to have to use as well as how fluid I will be with them compared to the images I have up in my head. I'm also worried of failure in that I want to start my own firm, so I'll be starting off from being an architect for a couple years maybe. But I don't want to go bankrupt. I want to succeed, and that's just something that really worries me. Is hey, are you exactly going to go bankrupt? Are you going to get any clients? Are people going to support you? How's things going to go? Are you going to end up in a dead end job? Like, it worries me.
Yeah, it's bringing up really good stuff, and I use good as a way of just saying I think it's relevant and I think it's honest. And I think you're actually further ahead on the road to figuring that out just by naming it and recognizing that it is something to think about and figure out. And the next question actually dovetails with that in thinking, and it's that third question on the sheet. What are some things that you know of at Kent State that can help you with those challenges in the time that you have here? And that's really what we want to get to with this tool and this worksheet. In the time that you have left at Kent State, there are some things that I think can help you develop some of those skills. And I can share just as an example, one of the things that I shared with my group if I was going to Kent State as a student, because I am interested in bringing people together and pursuing a common purpose and looking at the world around us and trying to make change. One of the things that I would do in responding to my fear of the unknown and not having a roadmap and not knowing how to do it is to get that experience working with a student organization or working with student government to figure out how I do rally people together to create that change. So for some of you, what does that look like? What are some of the things that you've already identified at Kent State might be opportunities for you to respond to some of those fears or concerns? And Lauren?
Something that has given me more confidence is in my first year experience class. It's my only in-person class this year, but in that class, the head of the architecture program, he is in every class teaching us, and I think just having that opportunity to be able to talk to someone that has already been through so much success, and I get the opportunity to sit and listen to someone who has been through it, who has understanding and becoming successful and doing successful things. It gives me confidence because I know that I have that connection or that opportunity now to have someone as a first step to start going and someone to get information from at Kent.
That's great. And to add on to that too, I think one of the great things about that is that as you become more aware of who you are and what your internal voice is telling you, you're then able to kind of reimagine. So that person had this great success and they had that experience. But now that I'm becoming more familiar with who I am, I can imagine that for myself. So thank you. And Katie, your hand is raised.
Yeah, so for me, being an English major, it's about narrowing down what I'm interested in as well. So I'm currently a student success leader on campus. And honestly, as much as I've enjoyed that experience and it's been great, teaching is not for me. A lot of people, like when I say English major, they're just like, oh, so you're going to be a teacher. So I think just taking advantage of those opportunities to be like, is this something that I can honestly see myself being like fulfilled by for the rest of my life?
Yep.
And yeah, so that's just been something really significant this semester.
That's such a great point. It's not only about if you try something out and you really love it, like trying it out is a great thing. It's also a great thing if you find out that you really don't like it and it's not for you. And just knowing that, I think moving forward helps you with your own planning. So thanks for sharing that. Anything else anyone wants to share about some things that they have in mind to respond to those challenges? What are some things that you're aware right now that you can do at Kent State? Can we get one more person to share? Going once, going twice. I do want to wrap up with just a general question, which is, what did you think about this exercise? What are you leaving this virtual space that we're in right now with on your mind? How are you feeling walking out of here? Lauren?
So I had to do this for this required assignment, and honestly, I just thought it was gonna be like a informational meeting, but it actually ended up being really more inspiring than that, and it helped relieve some of those like anxieties that I have about my future career. It just made me feel a lot better about things.
It's great to hear. Thank you. And Chris, your hand is up.
Yeah, this whole experience definitely made me think and introspect a lot more than I originally thought it was going to be. And I just originally thought this was going to be like an hour and a half long PowerPoint presentation or something. It didn't like it was very in depth and personal, and I very much appreciate how much it made me think about my future.
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for participating. And I think part of the power of this comes from what you're putting into it as far as your vulnerability and being here and willing to do that work. So thank you. And Katie, your hand is up.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way as Chris and Lauren, just expecting this to be like a really broad presentation, but the fact that it was like so individualized really helped me. I think doing these questions over and over, like for each semester, might really help, especially before I schedule, just making sure that I'm keeping my goals in mind, and like making myself the priority. I think that would be super helpful.
It's great to hear, Katie. Thank you for sharing. Kristen, I've been talking for a while. Do you want to share or just run through? I know you know all about CED and the different programs you offer in response to some of the things that were brought up. I know that there are things that your office does that probably could help with some of the challenges that were named.
Yes, thank you all so much for everything that you've shared. Full disclosure, it's online learning here in my house and we are in a class break, so I'm sorry for the extra noise. But what I've pulled up here to share for you on the screen will also share out with you because we have you all turn in your email addresses as you signed up. Isaac, baby, I'm on a call. But I'm sharing with you a list of resources that, in addition to everything that you've shared, career exploration and development can also offer. So these are a number of tools. There are some self-guided reflections, some assessments that let you explore. So you might be sitting here today saying, I'm not really sure what my interests are or what skills I might bring. That can be a starting point for some of these conversations as well. And so there's a whole array here on the screen in front of you that you can connect with at kent.edu/career explore majors and career right off of our homepage. And of course, with all of those, you don't have to do that alone. You can certainly begin on your own and then make an appointment with one of our career advisors. So pardon my scrolling, I know that can be a little disorienting. You can schedule an appointment or join us with a drop-in session as well. And then if you're not familiar with our job and internship platform, Handshake, I wanted to share with you, this is the student view of the page in Handshake. And Handshake has a couple of ways that you can leverage it. Of course, you can search for jobs and search for employers and get information that way. But you're also able to, or and, not but, connect with other students using the community tab here. So I'll just quickly show you that. It's students who are Kent State students and students who are not Kent State students, but gives you an opportunity to message with them, understand you. Maybe they had an internship somewhere that you're interested in interning one day. Having those conversations, I think, is a really rich way to give that reflection. And let me go back. Also, the handshake helps in some regard with real-time career pathing activities. And what I mean by real-time, it's going to map back in Handshake some of the open opportunities that you'll have availed to you through our utilization of the platform. So let's just say, for example, that I'm interested in potentially this area of purchasing, merchandising, and procurement. Well, if I click on that, I get some at-a-glance information as well as related positions that might be posted in Handshake. So this can give me one way to get information. Certainly on our Explore Careers and Majors page, you also see Department of Labor information that does some of the same things. There's some career mapping tools that exist within that too. But I think what I would leave you with is we really are so glad that you've had these in-depth conversations and that we can start them, because it really is all about you. One of the things I shared in my group is that sometimes I think students aren't sure, and I wasn't sure when I was a student either, what career services or career exploration and development would do, how they would help me. And I thought maybe they would tell me what I was supposed to do. And that isn't at all. We're here to help you reflect and to think and explore and test and try to get to that next for you. And, you know, it's a process and it's a lifelong process as you go through all the stages of your life and career. So wanted to share those resources. As I said, we have the sign-in sheet, so I'm going to email these to everyone as well. But so glad for you all being here today. Thank you for connecting with us. Craig, anything you want to conclude with, and I'll stop sharing.
Sure. I just want to share that our office not only shares an office space with CED, or we still do, but we definitely did before the pandemic. But we also share the basis of our work as being experiential learning. And one of the things that our office does is really starts with the framework of asking, what does it mean to be an active citizen in your community? And we've kind of taken this 4-step framework to really shape all of the experiences that we offer for students. And the first step in that framework is being a member, which means that you're a member of a community. You may not act on that a whole lot, but you may stumble upon different things to do. In that framework for our program is really just volunteering. So we offer a lot of different volunteer opportunities that are usually one-off, different organizations looking for people to help with different things. So we put those out there. By the way, this is all on kent.edu/community, which is our website. We then move from a member to volunteer. And so then we have days of service that are fixed programs where we actually bring people together on campus and do different projects in 10 people or less these days that are connected with different nonprofit organizations in the community. And that gets I think it's a really great opportunity to meet different people on campus and then learn a little bit about some of the work that's going on in the community. And then moving on from there, we get more and more involved in the work. And so then it's being a service leader and actually facilitating those experiences and making sure that your peers are connecting with each other. Your community partner advocate positions that Eric is one, for example, that get assigned to a local community organization for a year at a time and do projects that advance their missions. And that's a part of that role. And then we also plan alternative break trips, which are service experiences that range from 3 to 5 to 7 days during the academic breaks during the year. Unfortunately, those are postponed this year. But for next year, if everything works out with the pandemic, those will be back in the fold. So we offer a lot of different experiences that I think it's really helpful to take advantage of, because again, these experiences, a lot of times they don't necessarily have a script or an end in mind, and you get to try out different things and fail and mess up, or just find something maybe you do like that you wouldn't have known going into that experience that you were interested in. And so that's really what we're about, is offering those experiences. I am happy to share more information offline about that for anyone who's interested. So that's really what I wanted to share. Just to wrap up, I'm really interested, if they're still with us, to go back to our panelists one more time and get a very quick soundbite of advice for everyone on the call, for what you would recommend them doing moving forward from this experience. So maybe we'll start with Amelia.
Hello. So just like state my overall experience, or like
Just a quick bit of parting advice that you'd have for everyone that was here today.
oh my gosh. Listen, y'all. Okay. You need to know your worth as a student, as a worker, and as a person. You need to allow yourself to do the things that you want to do, not based off of what other people think you should do. My parents, they wanted me to go in for speech pathology. They didn't think I would make a career out of the arts. They wouldn't think that I would have gotten a job even during the era of COVID. And here I am. I have a job that I love, and I followed my own path. And was it rocky? Yes. Did I fail a lot? Yes. But was it worth it? Yes. And that means that it's possible. You can do anything that you want, within reason, but still, you can do anything that you want to get where you deserve to be. And you will have to pass through those obstacles, and those obstacles will make you very uncomfortable. You'll feel very confused. You will have some highs to the highs and lows to the lows, but in the end of the day, you are still growing toward becoming a better person, a stronger person, and just a more well-rounded person. And that's all you can ask for. So continue being compassionate, continue questioning, always question everything. Working for the JCC, my program director always tells me to ask questions, because that is the Judaic mantra, per se. But it's true. Always ask questions, always be there for yourself, and never be afraid of jumping into the water. There might be small pebbles, there might be sharks, but no matter what, just always feel prepared, and you will learn something new every day. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing and participating and sharing your story. And we'll go to Eric to close us out. Any last thoughts or any advice you want to impart?
Sure. I'd just like to reiterate, to not worry if you don't know what your major is or what you want to do. And if you don't know, just look into any interests you might have, follow your passions, follow things that maybe you didn't think you would be interested in, but you're intrigued by them. And whatever you do, always uplift others and include everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank everyone for being here. I see Amelia's her contact information there, so if you're so inclined, please feel free to reach out to her to talk more. But thank you. And Kristen, is there anything else you want to share?
Same thing. Thank you, everyone. We'll be working over the coming days to get the video recording linked up in our handshake session or handshake resource library, as well as sending the materials to you if you signed in. So thanks so much for being with us today, hanging out even a few minutes longer than our 90-minute session was planned for. We're so grateful for you to be here, and we look forward to connecting with you both in CEL and CED over the coming weeks and throughout this academic year. Have a great, safe weekend, everyone.